what is the crack, YouTubers? Welcome to episode 7 of Two Bald Knobs. It's myself, Scarnair.
And me, Steve-O. Episode 7, eh? We'll be releasing a box set soon.
A DVD box set.
Yeah, Blu-ray. 4K all the way, baby.
Maybe 4K. 4K Ultra, yes. Listen in. Or maybe start a radio station.
I don't think anyone wants to see our hideous mugs in 4K on their 60-inch screens.
Yeah. Could you imagine that? Walking into that when you get home from work. What are you watching?
Imagine walking in on someone watching that. It's not what it looks like.
Oh, man. Be awkward as hell. Oh yeah, we'll try to get back to the topic at hand. We're supposed to talk about, not just random banter. What have we been up to since our last Two Bald Knobs podcast? What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I've been building Ork scenery on the channel. Some of the tabletop scenic stuff. They sent me the Dakar bunker, so I've just finished building that and recently released a video, doing a build and review of that, and I was really impressed with it. And I was shopping on the Black Friday deals and Tabletop Scenics. They had 20% off everything, so I used that opportunity to get myself the Ork Barracks and the Ork Watchtower. So that'll be arriving very soon. I'm looking forward to building that stuff, because building those MDF kits is it's been an experience, actually. It's very different from building plastic kits and stuff, but I'm really impressed with it. I love the level of detail and the sort of sturdiness of them, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do with them.
They do look decent. I watched your video on the Dakar bunker. It does look highly detailed and pretty intricate. The barracks would be pretty interesting once you get your hands on it. I haven't built any MDF kits myself, but I do know you need to spray them with filler primer before you put any paint on them, because they tend to soak in a lot of paint. So that much I do know, but I haven't gone near any MDF sets. But how did you find assembling them? Were they much hassle or pretty straightforward?
I screwed a bit up, actually, because in the way that you assemble these, you sort of build the basic structure first, and how they get the sort of detail and everything is that you layer it up. So you have just a flat panel, which is like a wall or a door, for example, and then you put the next bit, which would be like the sort of the framework of the door and the hinges and the window slits and everything, and then you'd put another bit over the top of that, which would add an extra layer of detail, like door handles and decorative bits and bullet damage. And so it's really cool in that the way it's sort of you layer it up as you go. You build the basic structure and then you sort of accessorize it. And yeah, I screwed up at the front, the sort of skull face that's on the front of it, I glued on before I'd glued the bit that should go on before that. And yeah, I was gluing this stuff together with Gorilla Glue, which is really strong wood glue. It's like super glue for wood. And so by the time I'd realized, trying to pry this thing apart was just not happening. So I had to get out the good old Mr. Stanley and very carefully slice this bit apart. And it's at that point where you're like, do I just accept that I've screwed that bit up and move on, and probably no one else but me will notice, or do I try and fix it and risk really destroying this thing beyond repair? And I went for that latter option, and luckily it went okay, because obviously I was making a video out of it as well. So but yeah, I would just say with MDF kits, you just dry run and make sure, because lots of it slot together. They've got tabs and slots, and if you glue certain bits together, then you come to put the floor in or something, you won't be able to get it in if you put a certain wall in first. And don't always trust the instructions, I'll say that as well. But I think that's true of most kits. I have that with GW kits quite a lot, that don't do it in the order the instructions say.
Yeah, I've been learning that the hard way with some of buggy kits. Been busy building the buggy kits myself. I managed to get Battle in recently, and I wanted to build the scrap jet, but I had the proxy. I didn't have time. I was busy building the scrap jet, but I think I've built I'm on to my 4th buggy. I went a bit mad when the new Ork release came out, and I was like, I'll buy all of them. I still have a couple to build. But they're some of them are really nice models. The way some of them go together is a bit intricate. Like you really have to, if you want to get the most out of the kits, you really have to build them in sub assemblies and paint the crew separately, which wasn't really something that we suffered with some of the older kits like the truck and stuff, because you could glue the truck together fully and not have to worry about it, and then just add the kit in, add the crew in afterwards. Whereas I find with a lot of these newer vehicles, they're not as easy to get. They're not. Yeah, you can't really get away with just building them, just fully building them, playing with them, and then painting them later. They seem to be designed to be painted as you build them. I even remember there's certain instructions to tell you to paint them in sub assemblies. So that's the design they've gone with these newer buggy kits, is that they want you to paint as you go, and you don't really get any spare bits left over at all. I don't think. I think one of the kits I was left with like one spare head, I think, on one of them. But apart from that, it's literally what you get on the sprue is it. There's no, the days of having extra gubbins and shooting and stuff for the bits box. It seems to be the way of the dodo. What do you think?
Yeah, it's as I was watching your live video the other day, doing the build of it, and as I commented on that video, that it's the kits look incredible, the detail on them and the inventiveness of them, and I covered them all in sort of detail as they were being leaked and stuff when they were first being announced over October, and they look really cool. And at first I was initially really excited by them, but as it sort of became clear that all these kits were mono build, and very mono build, even down to, in a lot of the cases, the sort of posing of the orcs within them and stuff, it killed it dead for me. And I made the decision, saving up money to get all this new orc stuff in October. I ended up buying not one new kit. I bought all the old stuff that's been out for ages, because it's that side of things. I think building is one of my favourite parts of the hobby, and I love being able to put my own spin on it. Where, even if it's not necessarily kit bashing or anything like that or converting, just choosing the different options within the set, picking the head you like the best, and picking the weapons you think look coolest, and armor plates, and things like that, and being able to build things in different ways, that excites me. And mono build kits just generally I find quite dull and sort of tedious to build, and knowing that yours is going to look exactly the same as everyone else's, it just sort of kills it dead for me. And it's a real shame, actually, because like I said, the kits look incredible. I mean, you can't take anything away from the creative side of GW and what they've created with these kits, and they look awesome. There's no denying that. And I think you'd be hard pushed to find anyone that doesn't like at least one or two of those new buggies.
That's true. I'd agree with you there. They are very mono build. The crews, especially, a lot of them are sculpted for very specific poses up against weapons and stuff. Well, I'm not saying they couldn't be converted. It would be very hard with a lot of them. And the drivers, maybe you'll get away with it, but even still, the feet of some of the drivers is literally like the driver and his torso and his legs will be one part, and his feet would actually be cast into the floor of the vehicle on some of the vehicles. I think the custom booster blaster, so the one with the rivet cannon, that one I know that the feet are cast in, which you might think we're nitpicking, but if you wanted to swap out drivers altogether, you know what I mean, you're stuck. You're gonna have to try and carve his feet out of the floor of the vehicle. And then
which can be done.
Oh, it can be done, but it'll be an absolute ball.
It's gonna take a bit of it's gonna take someone with a bit of knowledge and a bit of skill and stuff to do that, and someone with some experience. It doesn't invite conversion and kit bashing and customization. It's a bit concerning, actually, with these kits that have come out, in that, and I know a lot of other factions have had sort of similar kits and things, possibly not quite so mono build as ours, but I know a lot of the newer Space Marine stuff has less options, and they've definitely been going the way of these easy to build kits, which I don't think are a bad thing, actually, because they're optional. You still got the Like the Redemptor Dreadnought, for example, you've got the easy build version if you want to save a bit of money and you just want it as it is, or you've got the more advanced, more expensive normal kit with all the extras and options and different choices. But it worries me for the way the game's going, because it's not just mono build in that the kits are mono build, but if we look in the data entries in the codex, they're mono build in that they don't have any options for war gear or weapon swaps at all.
Yeah, they're very literal. Very literal in the codex. Even if you look at the likes of the Killer Cans and stuff, and the Death Dreads, like I fielded 3 Death Dreads in a nice little Death Dread drop I used in a battle I was playing, the first one in the codex. And I noticed, I was like, oh, I'll give him like 4 claws, but you can't give him 4 claws. You can, if you want to give him all close combat weapons, you have to give him 2 claws and 2 saws, because that's literally what is on the kit. So it's very cookie cutter now, where it's literally you're buying unit as it comes in the box, and that's the equipment that you're gonna play with it. So it's very, I find that this codex, I think, is probably the most restrictive regards to kit bashing in any of the Ork codexes. If you look at the previous ones, you'll be given rules options for equipment that isn't on your kit, but they know that you'll get your hands on it somewhere else in the Ork miniature line. But if they're going the way of everything literally just has enough to build that kit and nothing else, there's not going to be much room for that anymore. You know what I mean? Because you won't be able, oh, I want to put a custom Mega Blaster on this unit, like maybe Killer Cans or whatever, but it doesn't come in the kit. And it's like, well, you won't, you know what I mean? They won't have the option for that anymore. Games Workshop literally wanted to be, you have rules for exactly what comes on the sprue, and then that's it. That seems to be the direction they're going. So I think,
and that's yeah, we spoke about that previously as well, and that's it's restrictive, certainly, and in those cases you just pointed out, it's restrictive, but it's even more so evident with mono build kits. Like, obviously with Death Dreads, Killer Cans, etc., you only get to use what's in the box. In some of the data things, this is actually giving us extra options, like boys, for example, now being able to have tank buster bombs in the squads because they come in the kit. So in some cases, it actually works in our favour. But at least even with that restrictiveness, you still have options within that kit. So the boys kit, for example, comes with your rocket launcher, your big shooter, your stick bombs, your tank buster bombs. You've got your knob with your power claw, and you can change his weapons, and you can have shooters or sluggers. So there's a lot of options still within that kit. But with that rule and mono build kits combined, I mean, just imagine the scenario of a few years from now where a lot of our older stuff has been replaced with new kits, and they are also mono build and have the data sheets that are exactly that, mono build. How boring, how dull is it going to be making an army list when you just literally say, I'm going to have that unit, and that unit, and then that's it, your work's done, because you can't then go in and customize and personalize your army and your units within your army to reflect yourself and the fluff of your army, or just something you think's cool, because it's all already there. Every vehicle's got the guns it's got, every unit's got the guns it's got, and then that's how you make your army. It's a bit worrying, and it's probably a bit alarmist to sort of say that, but it definitely feels like it's the sort of direction they're headed in, and it's worrying, because it would make for an incredibly bland game that would lack a lot of depth, and the customization and the conversion possibilities. And even if you take conversions and kit bashes out of it, just being able to choose some options within the kit, if you're strictly sticking with the kits, it would take all that away from it. And it's a scary thought indeed, I think. What do you think?
yeah, I think you're right. I think you're getting less tactical flexibility with individual units, and what they're tending, what the trend from what we can see in the codex so far tends to be that they're splitting units up into different tactical roles. So for instance, if we look at the battle wagon, they've taken one vehicle and they've split it into 3 combat roles. So there's one with the death roller, and then there's like one that kind of the Dakar wagon, pretty much. I don't know. I couldn't be bothered to remember whatever specific names they've given them. But there's like one with the death roller, one that gets to shoot its
We've
main
got the
armament whammon twice.
we've got the Bone Breaker,
Yeah, that's the one to
which
death
has
roller.
and that has the Bone Breaker Ram, which adds D6 to the attack characteristics. And then we've got the Gun Wagon, which comes with the periscope. So if the vehicle moves under half its movement, it can shoot its cannon or kill cannon twice. And then you've got your bog standard Battle Wagon, which doesn't come with either of those special rules. But it does that, like you said in your video. It is just it's a way to fill out 3 slots, isn't it? Where quite easily they could have had the Bone Breaker Ram and the periscope as war gear options to equip your battle wagon with, and just had it as one entry.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's if they're moving away from war gear options, then they're giving you specific standard templates that are constructed STCs. There you go. Lo and behold. But even if you look at the buggies, like what were the buggies beforehand? You had your war buggy where you could give it like rockets and a big shooter and stuff like that, and then you had your tracks, the war tracks.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
The
you give them like Scorcher or whatever else. But so we've lost that variability. But what they've given us instead is
well,
6.
even the battle wagon itself.
Yeah.
I mean, the battle wagon before was just you had the basic battle wagon, didn't you? It paid the points for, and it had no weapons on it. It was just a big tank, and that was it. And then you had a big war gear list where you could give it rockets, big shooters, kill cannons, zap guns. You could just accessorize it, and you could pump loads of points into it and make a big killy death machine with bristling with guns and a death roller, which you can still do, but they've just gone a bit of a funny way about it.
But I think you've touched on it there though when you say war gear list, because if you look at the war gear list for this 8th edition codex compared to war gear lists previous codexes, and this is literally just a snippet compared to previous one. So it's on page 83.
Very streamlined. It's just about a third of a page. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, the rest of the page is taken up with a photo. Like, you know what I mean? It's not even a page of war gear list. Like,
and that's not just us, is it? I mean, that's every codex has gone that way now. You look at all their war gear lists; they've reduced greatly and streamlined all of the codexes in that way. But different data sheets for different vehicles that all come off. You know, you'd expect almost like every Chimera in an Imperial Guard platoon to all be equipped the same and armed the same and look the same and roll off the production line out of the factory from the STCs. Orks definitely don't do that.
Yeah, not at all, man.
They would not have, you know, all the mechs would be putting their own spin on their creations and tinkering away and scrap heap challenge style, and they'd all be, you know, packed with different weapons and stuff. So it definitely doesn't fit us as players, that's for sure.
Yeah, the narrative of the faction, it doesn't really fit it, and I think that draws that mentality, that type of player of wanting the kit bash stuff. Myself personally, I like having at least one vehicle original, just from like a collector's point of view. But multiples after that, yeah, I like to kit bash the crap out of them and beat them up a bit. You know, you don't want them all to look exactly
the same. It's exactly what I've just done with my mech guns. I built the first one exactly as it comes from the kit, because why wouldn't you? It looks really cool. And then I've went about creating my other ones by, you know, chopping up different kits and mixing them up and making them look different. And so every single one looks different.
Yeah, it's your own little twist to it. And then years from now, when the unit's out of production, people will ask you, go, well, that's the original one. And this is what happened when I got my hands on the kit. See?
And which we can still, even with the sort of mono-build nature of some of these kits, so like you've got your, let's say the Megatrack Scrapjet, for example, it's a jet on tank tracks and wheels with guns on it. You could very easily get a Dakar jet and cut it down to size, stick some tracks on it, stick some wheels on it, stick the guns on it, and you could create your own Megatrack Scrapjet and convert your own one that looks similar to the other one but different, and you could do that just fine. But you couldn't they're still going to operate. They're still going to operate the same.
Yeah,
They're still going to have the same weapon stuff. So you can convert stuff to look like a different version of something. So you can convert your own trucks, for example, and loot things to make your own trucks, but they'll be armed exactly the same. But part of the fun of conversions and creations is not only for your thing to look different on the table, it looks cool, but to actually, so it has its own rules in effect. So you've chosen certain guns and then modeled them on. So not only have you created something visually, but you've created something in game terms as well that has different abilities and with the different war gear options and stuff you give it. And that adds a whole nother level of depth to creating something, because you're not just doing it for a visual standpoint then. You're doing it, maybe you're doing it competitively, maybe you're just doing it because it fits the fluff, whatever your reasons. And it's converting something that looks different but operates the same is fun, and it's good, and I do that all the time as well. But imagine if we had the looted wagon, man. How much fun would all us Ork players be having right now?
Don't get me started.
Imagine it. And I know before anyone pipes up in the comments section that they're going to get it for open play, and it's got
who
points
plays
levels.
open play? I was asking this in me stream. I'm like, I've never played open play. Does anyone actually? I'm sure there are some people out there, but anytime I go down to my local club, now I know it's my local area. It's only a small area. I live on a small island. There's only about 5 million of us. All right, you know what I mean? And I play in a specific club, so it could just be that club. I'm taking that into account. But nobody really plays open play. Anytime I organise to play a game against guys, it's always match play. We always play match play.
The only people that play open play find my comment section in any video where I diss open play, put it that way, because there is a few of them out there, because I've seen them in the comment section saying, I always play open play, it's great, you know. Hats off to you, that's fine. If you want to play open play, and that's totally fine. What I'm saying is that don't take stuff away from matched players. Don't put this stuff in open play at the expense of people playing match play. I want to be able to play a looted wagon in a matched play game, and I want to be able to build my creation and go through the war gear section and choose the different options and pay the points for it and play it in a competitive game, even if it's not very competitive. I just want to be able to play, and it's I don't know, it's just a real shame. I mean, us Ork players, we would have been over them if they had got rid of 2 of those battle wagon options and just made them war gear lists. That would have freed up another page. They could have had a whole page with a data sheet, looted wagon, all its different options and points in the back, and we would have had a whole lot of happy Ork players out there.
Well, I think part of the reason why we don't actually get the looted wagon is because there isn't a kit for it. But I don't see why they couldn't have made an Ork conversion kit for any Imperial vehicle. Like, it could have been sold. They could, like, don't they do it with the Gene Stealer cultists, where they literally sell sprues, little sprues for Gene Stealer cultist symbols and heads and stuff for the vehicles. You know what I mean?
Chaos vehicles are a prime example. Chaos Rhino, Chaos Predator. Okay, that's just a kit with a Rhino in and a Chaos sprue, the spiky bits. You could have done that same kit and had an Orky bit sprue with armor
like
plates and turrets and bits, and
crew.
where you just accessorize. There you go. It would have been very easy for them to do. And it just, but we're banging on about something there we've both talked about at great length already.
It's like it's not a sore point at all.
It's such a sore point, and I don't know. I would play a narrative play game. I'd love to play in a story-driven campaign and play narrative play where you play PowerPoints and put some stuff down and just play for the fun. I would have no problem playing a game like that. But for the majority of my time, I'm going to be playing match play games, and I like pitting my army against someone else's equal points, and I like building lists, and I like tweaking things and trying to squeeze in the points, and it's part of the experience for me. And I want to be able to still be creative and competitive. I don't see why we can't be.
I get what you mean. Like, sitting down and trying to make a 2,000 point list, and you're restricting yourself and half the fun, or not, maybe not half the fun, but a part of the experience of playing battles and battle reports and playing games is you're sitting down beforehand and how you construct your army list using the point system and how restrictive it is. It is, it's an aspect of the hobby in and of itself, and the tactics you're trying to get in, and you're like, oh, well, I want to get this unit in, but then I can't afford a power claw over here, and I can't then afford that rocket, so I'll trim these back, and I'll stick in a warp head instead. Or if I get a few points off of some other unit, I could change that to a war boss. You know what I mean? That whole aspect of the hobby, I could see where open play could be useful. If it's just mates playing against each other and you're not taking the piss. But I think where it's random strangers, just like in the local gaming store, I think it's potentially too open to abuse, where people will just be like, "Oh, we're playing open play. Well, this unit costs that many power points, and I'm just going to max out their weapons list, their war gear list. I'm going to take the absolute maximum that you can take, and if you're not restricted, then why wouldn't you? So those who don't then take the maximum lists are at a disadvantage off the bat. Whereas
incredibly, and
yeah,
it takes away that sort of part of the tactics and strategy and your skill as a player comes when you're sitting at home a few days before the game even begins and you're building that list. You could, do I want lots of numbers? In which case, I'm going to keep my troops choices and stuff very bare bones. I'm not going to splash out on the expensive upgrades and war gear options. I'm going to keep them to their basic weaponry so I can get more troops in there. Or do I want to make them more elite and more specialized and equip them for a certain task? And will the points allow for that? And that all comes into it, definitely, 100%. And it would be, it goes back to that monobuild nature again, with sort of, if it goes further and further towards narrative play or open play or the PowerPoint system and no war gear options, just opening your book going, all right, I'm having him, and him, that's 30 power points done, and then that's it, and you just build the thing from the kit as it is, and you're just going to strip players of all their creativity and the drive to be creative as well, because other than just doing it for a visual standpoint, there's going to be no other reason to convert your stuff and go through the hassle of doing that.
Well, it depends. Like, because we're veteran players, we'll have that view, that aspect on it. But where I can see open play being really good is literally for people who are still wet behind the ears and new to the whole wargaming thing, where it's literally, right, you guys want to get a game going, and you don't really want to be spending time crunching the numbers, or you just want to get playing as soon as possible. It's like, great, just pick a power level. It's like 50, all right, you need that unit, and that unit. That's it. Go play. Like, I think that's where open play and those type of games, that the way the army is constructed, I think that's mainly what it's aimed at, in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong here, but from what I'm seeing, it's really sort of beginner friendly, where it's like, just get a game in.
You're definitely not wrong. You hit it on the head. That's exactly what it's aimed at, and I think it's working as well from a business standpoint. I think they're drawing a lot of new players into the hobby. Well, I think they did it sort of twofold, because not only, I think the open play and narrative play and some of these simpler mono build kits and easy to build kits and good value starter sets and stuff have all done their bit at attracting in a new player base.
Conquest,
and a player base that, Conquest for sure has attracted loads of new people that have probably never would have looked at the hobby before. And that's cool. But also, I think they've attracted a lot of old veteran players back. A lot of people that went stale through 6th and 7th came back. And I think those people are more coming back towards the match play side of things, because that's what we've always known and generally how we've always played it. And, they lost a lot of the sort of broken rules and things that we had, especially during 7th with, broken formations and detachments and whatnot. But you were a new player once. I was a new player once. And I can tell you right now, when I was a new player getting into the hobby in the 90s, and the kits were a very different thing back then, and there was all sorts of options that were in the codex, that did not for 1 second put me off. That is what drew me into the hobby. I loved the depth of it. And you could initially get into it with some sort of basic starter set or something, but then as you read through White Dwarf and things, and it drew you in, and the possibilities, and as you kept digging into the hobby and you start venturing into campaigns and you start venturing into kit bashing and converting and theming your armies and building up a flow, all the different layers to this awesome hobby that really just ensnare you and keep you playing for many, many years. I think if they veer too much towards the new casual player base, that they will actually lose the essence of what keeps the long-term fans and stuff before. Like, I'm going to use an analogy here, but look at Nintendo going right off into computer games, but they came out with the Wii console, a console that your granny would play, that anyone who had no interest in computer games before played, because it was easy, it was accessible, it had the little Wii remote, you played tennis, you played bowling, and they loved it. But it was a short fad, and because there was no sort of much depth and substance to it, those people didn't stick around. Once the next thing came out, they went on to that. But it's the long-term fans that will keep companies afloat and keep them going. And I'm not saying that's where GW's headed, and they're going to just keep dumbing down the game and dumbing down the game and dumbing down the kits and put all their focus on new young players. But I just think they need to be very conscious of their long-term player base and the people that love the depth of the game and the on all aspects of it, from building, converting, playing, all of it. I just don't want GW to lose focus of that, because I think it would be long-term really damaging, actually. And I think it's other games that have been very successful recently as well that have prompted them to go this way. I think they've been looking at the competition. So if you look at Star Wars X-Wing, for example, hugely popular game, and for that you buy in kits X-Wings and TIE fighters and all sorts of different ships from the Star Wars universe, and they come fully painted on their base, ready to go, and they come with all the cards in the kit. So it's simple, you just buy the kit, put your model down, and it's ready to play and painted, and that has been a hugely popular game, and partially for that reason, for its ease of access and the fact that people don't need to build these intricate kits and don't need to get confused and lost in that. And I think they've definitely seen these other companies and the huge success they've had with their sort of business models, and they've definitely taken that on board, I think. Hence why we're seeing so many more mono build kits, easy build kits, and simpler ways to get into and play the game.
I think you're right there. I think you're right in that regard, because when we were talking about monobuild kits, I was actually thinking about X-Wing and stuff like that, how it's literally, you will buy an X-Wing and it comes as an X-Wing and the rules for it are the rules for it. Yeah, they seem to be heading in that sort of direction. Obviously, the hobby being a large part of what they sell, I don't think it'll get to this stage where we will get pre-painted miniatures, but I think we've got the closest thing that Games Workshop may ever do, where we're getting coloured plastics now. If we look at the Speed Freaks box set, come in yellows and reds, so you can literally put them together straight out of the box. Some of the push click stuff, if you're looking at the Plague Marines, they're coming in greens. Your Primaris are coming in blues. So you have that aspect where it's literally push together out of the box, read the rules, and start playing straight away in some regards.
Which is cool as a starter set, which is cool. It's a very good idea business-wise, and I've got a lot of the push-fit boys from the Black Reach set, and the push-fit War Boss and the push-fit Deathcopters, and they're fine. They're great, but after that, you then want something more. You want those detailed kits with all the extra bits that you can then start adding your personal touch. And I've had so much fun building Death Dreads and building, because the Death Dread kit is great. You've just got all the different guns in there, the different arms, the posability of it. That's a fun kit to build. It really is. Same with the Killer Cans as well. You get a lot of good options in there and a good mix of stuff to tinker about with, and it's just so much more fun. And I think it's those kits that they really excite me, those sort of kits. And I don't know. I don't know how long a game would hold my interest if it just did mono build. And I've never played X-Wing. I hear it's a very good game. I'm sure it is. But I think for me, it would start to get very samey after a while, and I don't think it would hold your interest long term. It'll be interesting to see if 20 years from now, X-Wing is still a really popular game, because eventually they'll run out of stuff to sort of do for it.
There's plenty of additional stuff outside of the films that I'm sure they can
that's
flesh
true.
out.
And, well, they're going to carry on making films for the next 20 years, so actually it probably will be successful in Star Wars.
I'm sure they won't run out in that regard. I don't know. I think like
how many of us veteran players would still be playing now if it was still mono build stuff? Would we still? I think we would have grown tired of the game. I think it's that depth and that there's just always something new you can build. There's always something new you can change and convert and tweak. And there's just, I don't know, you start taking away options and streamlining it too much, you're going to lose that.
I think it's like veteran players. I think what they're aiming at market-wise now in regards to, you want instant reward in regards to the kits, you know what I mean? Like, whereas with, maybe it's a difference in the generations where it's, they don't have, I know this sounds very ageist, but like people's, younger generations, they want instant gratification, sort of, you know what I mean? Because they're used to getting things straight away, sort of, you know what I mean? If you think about it,
totally.
like even it's across the board. If you look at music, I think I was looking at stats for something where music intros are like pretty much, mostly gone the way of the dodo, because it's instant straight away. So I think in that regard, I know I've probably put that point across very badly, but in the regard of wanting instant gratification or instant reward as soon as you get something, it's like as soon as you buy it, you want to put it together straight away and play with it straight away. You know what I mean? So I think that's what they're aiming for, because that's what you get with the likes of X-Wing and other pre-painted stuff where you can literally buy the box and start playing with it straight away.
Well,
it's the same with
everything's like that now, isn't it? You can watch TV on demand, you get your music on demand. When we were younger, you'd have to walk to the shop and buy your CD and bring it back and be able to play it. And,
in blizzard storms for 7 miles just to get a pint of milk in a glass bottle.
You'd have to be at home at a certain time if you didn't want to miss your TV program, because if you missed it, that was it. It was gone. It wasn't being shown again.
None of this record, Malak. None of that at all.
Yeah, it's just everything's instantaneous now. Games, if you want a game, you just download it and play straight away. And it's just the way things are now. So I guess that has obviously definitely had a factor in it. But it's in no way, I'm not saying any of this is a bad thing. It's all a really good thing. But I don't know. And if these mono build kits happen, but they still continue to bring out other kits that are still intricate and have lots, I'd just be very interested to see what the next wave of Ork releases would be. I'd be very interested to see, for example, if they redid the battle wagon, which I imagine they probably would. Knowing GW now, they would get rid of the battle wagon and replace it with a new Ork tank that had a very brandable name.
Yeah,
and if that came as a mono build kit with set weapons and no options, I don't know. I just like I've said it several times in this podcast already, but I just worry about the future of the hobby if they continue to just only release kits like that. Very, very concerning, actually.
Well, do you run a battle wagon in your army list? Like, what army list did you run for your battle? Because I know you got a battle in with the new codex recently, and I managed to get one under me belt as well.
I did. I had my first game with the new codex against Reroll Joe. We did a massive battle, 3,750 points.
Jesus.
So it was a big one. Took the full day to play, really good fun. And I just basically used everything I had, almost. So I played Bad Moons, of course, and then Joe played his Deathwing. And it was straight away from writing my list. I could see the change already, and I already knew my army was so much more powerful than it was from the index. Because before the game, I was saying, yeah, we'll do 4,000 points. I can definitely do 4,000 points easy. I think the last big game we did was 3,500, and I used sort of everything I had then. So I thought, I've bought quite a bit since then. I can easily, break 4,000 points. But once I'd done my list, I realised that I couldn't make it. So we ended up doing 3,750. And that's just from the insane amounts of points drops we've had pretty much throughout the codex. I know some things went up, like boys went up and war bosses and things went up, but predominantly war gear options and things stayed either the same points or dropped. And then some units like mega knobs and killer cans and death dreads and death copters certainly dropped drastically in points. So straight away off the bat, the army's stronger from that perspective. But I had a fun game. It was a comfortable victory. I can't remember the name of the mission we were playing, but it's one with 4 objectives. It started off very good for me. First turn, I weathered the storm quite well. Joe got first turn, and I survived. I think I lost 1 death dread in that initial first turn of shooting from him, and a few other vehicles were damaged and lost a few boys and things. But
you held your own.
And I think playing against orcs, if you don't kill enough of them first turn, you're in for a tough game. And he certainly was in for a tough game. And his army's very, very elite, very small in number because it's all Terminators predominantly, and Dreadnoughts and ridiculously powerful named characters, of which I think there were 4. So I just had full board control. I filled out a battalion detachment and a vanguard detachment, I think. So I had loads of command points, so I was able to use tons of the stratagems, and boy, those stratagems really, really make a difference to the army.
I think,
where it's so good. I mean, I'm just going to have a look at some of the stratagems of note to mention that I used during the game. Is the more Dakar stratagem.
Yeah, I found that one useful myself. Yeah, definitely. That's a good one.
Boy, using that with tank busters, so the tank busters are getting extra shots on 5s and 6s, and then they're tank busters, so they're re-rolling all their shots against vehicles. And then after doing that, using the bad moon trait showing off, so after they've shot all their weapons, they get to shoot again. It's just savage, absolutely savage. And there were definite shouts of orcs being overpowered, which was mildly amusing to me after the poundings I've had at the hands of his 1,000 Sons and various marine armies during 8th edition with my index orcs and having no stratagems to speak of and overpriced stuff. So it was quite good to be on the giving end of an arse whooping for a change. But overall, I think and I don't think the codex is overpowered at all. I think he chose the wrong sort of army. I think going highly elite and that is going to restrict you, and it did restrict him because he barely had any sort of command points to use, so he wasn't using anywhere near the level of stratagems I was using. And stratagems, they're a big thing, I think. When you're making your army list, try and fill out as many detachments as you can and try and get those brigade and battalion detachments because, some of these stratagems are just so powerful, man. I mean, even the force field projector, which I didn't rate that much, for 3 command points to increase the range of your Big Mech's custom force field to 18-inch bubble instead of a 9-inch bubble. I did use that on first turn because I was so worried about his shooting and his Dakar. And that really was worthwhile using because that kept a lot of my stuff alive. I was rolling a lot of 5s and 6s for my invulnerable saves. But tank busters stood out as a really strong unit, just really, really strong unit. My killer cans did really well for the first time ever. They've never performed well for me in previous games. And The Gorkanaut did his job. I teleported him in. So that was nice, not having him as a first turn bullet magnet and being either crippled or destroyed on first turn with all those las cannons. It's great being able to just teleport him in and know that you're getting at least one turn out of that beast and getting him into combat where he wants to be as well.
I did something similar, but I did a Death Dread drop. So because you can get like 3 Death Dreads in one unit, I did that. I like drop 3 of them in and just go mad.
That's a great option. Being able to tie up 3 different units as well is really good tactically, definitely. I like the sound of doing that. But you didn't face Space Marines in your first game, did you? How did your first game go?
Oh man, oh Jesus! It was amazing in some regards, but the result was shocking. I pretty much nearly got tabled, but that was pretty much my own fault. Tactically, I think. So we played a brigade detachment, 2K list. It was a spearhead assault deployment, so it was lengthways. We played the cleanse and capture mission. So that's the one where there's the 6 objectives and you're drawing 3 cards. At the end of the game, I think he had like 16 victory points. I think we got to turn 6 and then we called it because I was left with a Death Dread. He would have tabled me on turn 7. I think I had 10 victory points. He had like 17. But I fought against orcs. So I thought it was, especially for getting used to the codex, I thought it was really good. Some of the units that he had, I learned were really useful. Like, I built out a brigade detachment, so I found that my units were too small. So I brought like 2 units of 10 stone boys and stuff like that, and I dropped them in. I think my problem with my list is I dropped too much stuff in because I brought Death Dreads, I dropped them in. I had like 3 units of commandos I dropped in, Snake Rot I dropped in, 2 units of stone boys I dropped in. So I dropped quite a lot of stuff in. Whereas I think I'd be better off not going for the brigade detachment in future because I find I stretch myself to fill out the slots because you're trying to get your 3 fast attack, your 3 elites, your 6 troops. But with the troops, I found it quite handy because in regards to the stratagems, like as you were saying, I used teleported as well from your Death Dread drop. That's a great tactic. I think that's probably a great way to go with the knights. If you're fighting knights, just bring like a unit of 3 Death Dreads and teleport the bastards in. At least then, you know what I mean, you have 3 separate units charging the one guy, or you could charge 3 separate things. More Daka, because I always bring looters. I have done since I started playing orcs. I like the fire support. So I found more Daka, and I found really handy, especially in regards to brigade detachments. Quite a few people that bring like 3 units of minimum size grots. So what I did is I had grots in position in and around my looters so that I could use the grot shields, and that was a great stratagem because I'd happily use a grot any day of the week instead of a looter.
Grot shields are very, very cool stratagem. I do like the grot shield. I used that. I used my grots to protect my mega knobs, and yeah, it's great. It's being able to have a 30-point 10-man unit and get them to soak up a lot of the damage to your vulnerable stuff is really, really good.
Like, you're giving away force blood easily, but I think it's worth it. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. Grots are an incredibly useful unit and much more viable now because boys have gone up and grots are still 3 points a model. It's made them a lot more viable than they were before. And for me, they didn't kill anything. They didn't do anything amazingly good in terms of, you know, dishing out any damage. What they did do for me was complete area denial because he was a couple of units of Terminators. He was trying to deep strike in and trying to get them into position to be able to assault my war boss and slay the warlord. He just couldn't do it because I left him no room to teleport the unit in because I had sort of a unit of boys at the back of the board, and then I had 3 units of grots knocking about, which I just spread out as much as I could, and they just complete area of denial, which from his side of things was so easy for me because he had such a small elite army. It was so easy for me to get stuff where I wanted it and teleport the Gorkanaut in basically wherever the heck I wanted.
Whereas I had,
and then
yeah, I had another problem though. Because I was fighting orcs, he was spread out a lot more, so I was finding teleporting stuff in very hard. Because you're like, it's like there's a unit over there and a unit there and a unit there, and you're trying to find out where you can drop in viably, and you're left with little tiny sort of pockets between the 9 inches between units. And, so I found it hard in that regard, whereas if you're fighting an elite army, it'd be a lot easier to get into good positions, like you were saying, and take advantage of that. So that's where it really comes in handy. Yeah, no, definitely. I've learned quite a lot from my first battle. I don't think I'll be trying to go for brigade detachments in 2000 lists anymore. I'll try for smaller detachments and go for bigger units of boys. I had boys in truck boys, but that was probably the only time I got to use my clan stratagem, or not my clan stratagem, my clan culture, my blood axe tactics, and because I found the cover aspect of it is useless. Because I'm deep striking a lot of stuff in, it's gonna be like 9 inches away. So getting the cover tactic where if you're beyond 18, you count as being in cover I found that I think there was once the whole battle that I actually got to use that, but where I got to fall back and charge. Again, with units, I actually found that aspect of the Blood Axe culture very handy. So what I do is I get the truck boys, and I charge a unit with the truck force, so it would take the Overwatch. Then I charge the shooter boys in, and then if he didn't fall back, what I'd do is I'd get the shooter boys to fall back, and then charge again in the next turn. So that way you can, you know what I mean? If you keep them tied up.
Nice.
Because if you but you have to tie them up with something, otherwise you'll get Overwatch to hell and back. But that's clan tactics. That's what I found useful. What about you? How did you find your clan tactics?
I was gonna say that the falling back and charging or being able to shoot is obviously really cool. But did you get first turn in your game?
I did, but like I said, my main problem is I had so much stuff off the table.
Yeah, and I think also though I think your clan culture will probably come into its own a lot more when you're not getting first turn.
Yeah.
Especially if you're coming up against a Tau army or some sort of gunline army that is going to spit out a scary amount of DACA and try and sit at the back of the board and do that. I think that's where your clan culture will come into its own, because I think having your entire army initially benefiting from cover saves is going to make a lot of difference to the survivability of it in that first turn. But yeah, the being able to fall back and charge that's, I think, don't underestimate that tactically. Certainly, that's
not at all.
a really useful trait to have.
You just need to be smart with it. That's all.
Definitely. And yeah, I think where you were coming up against orcs as well, with another sort of horde army, made a lot of your, like you say, your teleporting and deep striking and stuff a bit more difficult. So I think your clan cultures would work very well against the army I just fought, actually, against those more elite, smaller armies that don't have that board control. I think it will really shine in those scenarios. But yeah, my Bad Moon, I'm so pleased I played Bad Moons. They're shooty as hell, and it was the look on Joe's face with the sheer amount of dice I was picking up and rolling and re-rolling during that game. And sometimes units would shoot and they would get more hits than they initially had shots. I think at one point my tank busters had 10 shots from 10 tank busters and ended up with 12 hits. It's just magical. The re-rolling ones of the Bad Moons, while initially when they first announced that as the clan culture months ago, as well as leaked it, rumored it, I was like, it's going to be good and it's going to help, but it's not overly strong.
Straight away, I thought that was one of the most powerful ones. Straight away, as soon as I heard
think that. I think if it was just that, it would have been fairly weak. But because it's combined with the DACA army wide rule, the combination of re-rolling ones and getting extra shots on sixes, and it's a lethal combination.
And the stratagems on top, using like more DACA and stuff, like you can get some crazy shit.
Yeah, it's a shooty orc army now is incredibly viable, and it's really fluffy in the way that they've done it, because they're still inaccurate. They still get lots of misses, but they just pump out so many shots, and I can't think of anything more orky. It's brilliant. And yeah, it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. I was getting so many more hits and doing so much more damage with my shooting than I would ever have dreamed of doing in the Index. In the Index, it just was not viable to make a fully shooty Ork army. You were just never going to do very well with that kind of army.
No, it was pretty much hordes or go home with the Index. You know what I mean? That was the way it was designed. Very mono build. I'm sure there were more successful builds out there and people in tournaments and stuff, but even by just looking at the way it was geared, it was really geared towards lots of boys and supporting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, overall, first experiences, well, I won my first game that I've won in a little while, and yeah, I'm just feeling very good, actually. I think the codex has just worked wonders for our army, and I think Orks are going to win a lot more now on the tabletop, and that's good. And your game wasn't really a loss because in the end Orks won, and so that's still a win.
It's true. It's very true. But I realised only when I'm looking at what I brought. So I brought like the Scrapjet, which is one of the new vehicles, and my opponent he brought 3 of the buggies. So I got to see 4 of the new buggies in action, and my verdict on some of the buggies, like the Scrapjet, I thought it lacked a bit of range. That was my one. Maybe I didn't have good placement on it. I found like the Rocket Truck squig buggy was good anti-infantry. The one that has all the squig launchers, that's really good against infantry, as you'd expect. The Shock Jug Dragster, surprisingly enough, that shock rifle when it hits, it's painful, man. It's really painful. I don't think he jumped it around much in the game. Like I said, there was a lot of troops all over the place, so there wasn't much opportunity. But that shock rifle does a decent amount of damage, and I found that the custom booster blaster, the rivet cannon on that is pretty nasty as well. It's nice. And he did, what was it, the green tide or something? What's that stratagem called where you get to bring a unit back? A full-size unit back?
Yeah, I know the one you mean. Yep, the 3 command points, and then you can, a unit under half strength, and you can take it off and bring it back fully equipped again. And yeah, that was a stratagem I intended to use, but I'd got so excited using all the stratagems during the game that when the opportunity came up, I'd spent most of my command points by then, so I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, unstoppable green tide. Yeah, that's a good
really good stratagem. Yeah. A really, really, really good one. Because you're also denying the enemy the victory points for that as well when you do that. Just as they're about to destroy something and claim a point, you bring it back full strength again. Yes, awesome. There's so much good stuff in this codex. What clan did your opponent play, out of interest?
Speed Freaks. I think that's why he brought a lot of the new buggies and stuff. He bought Speed Freaks and that extra. So it was Evil Sons, and he was playing Speed Freaks. So with his basic troops, he was getting that extra inch of movement, which made a massive difference. And then those buggies were getting the additional inch of movement because they were Speed Freaks. So like he was zipping all over the board, and I saw that there's a lot of tactical flexibility with those guys. They're very fast. They're very nippy. It's it's not something that should be overlooked.
Definitely not. I think Evil Sons, if you're looking for a more assault-based Ork army, I think Evil Sons are actually a stronger option than Goths, actually, in that respect. Goths are going to be more damaging when they get there, but I think just because Orks are brutal in assault anyway, that's what they do, and I think just being able to get your stuff into range quicker and earlier, and the Speed Freaks are just built for turn 1 charges, aren't they? They just insanely fast.
Yeah, you think about it, like we were playing, what was it, Spearhead Assault deployment, so we were playing lengthways, and he was still zipping up the board. I think we had I don't think we had a turn 1 assault. We had like a turn 2 assault because we had like stuff reserves coming in, but even his buggies were just hurling it up the board. Like I could see the smoke trails.
Sounds very cool. Very
It
cool.
was good crack. I lost, but I enjoyed it because I learned quite a lot about the codex, fighting against orcs and playing orcs, and I learned a lot tactics-wise about what will and won't suit the clan cultures I have, and then the tactical flexibility of some of the other clan cultures. I'd be very interested to see, like a small detachment of bad moons, DACA-wise, because I was very envious of the command point or the stratagem you guys have, where you get to shoot again, but it's bad
Yeah, the
moon
showing
only.
off stratagem.
Oh man,
It's so good.
I
It
was
is so good.
heartbroken. I was heartbroken when I saw that, and it's bad moon only, and I was like, oh
And
man.
the Goths have a similar one, but a combat version, don't they? Where you can fight and then fight again, and again, a stratagem like that, especially if you use it on the right unit at the right time. My God, that can cause
Make a
some
massive difference. Yeah, it could
horrendous
cause a
damage.
lot of damage.
I
Ruin someone's day.
10 Goth mega knobs in combat cause carnage, and then you just say, right, I'm doing that again. Just absolutely ridiculously brutal.
And then what's
But yeah,
what's your
so
mate?
do you have another game lined up?
Yeah, I just managed to organize one like literally about an hour ago, so I'll probably get another game in on Saturday, and I'll see if he wants to play his orcs again. And I'll be using a totally different list of what I did the last time. Like I said, I won't be stretching myself to try and fill out a brigade detachment in 2,000 points. I'll probably take two sort of smaller detachments. It's probably my old school style mindset where it's like, the bog standard force organization chart where it's just everything goes into one army. But I think
Yeah,
tactically wise, I need to sort of break out of that mentality and trying to stick everything in one detachment. I'll probably try and take two smaller detachments, and then that should allow me to muck around with other clans as well. Like, so, I don't know. I like me fire support, so I might bring a bad man detachment. I'm not too sure. Maybe.
Oh, it's turning him.
All the
Well,
DACA.
I've got an exciting game lined up. My next game will be against Idic Beer. So I'm doing a 2,000 point game, Orcs versus Necrons, which will be
Very sweet.
I'm really excited about.
Very jealous. Nice. I expect there to be a battle report in tow. Yes.
I don't know yet. I don't know because, as you know, the vast majority of my stuff is unpainted. So I don't know. If there is, it'll be on Idic's channel, and he will weather the storm on that. So that's completely up to him. But regardless, I'm just looking forward to having a fun game there and being able to go and visit him. And it'll be a good challenging game as well, because I know he knows his Necrons like the back of his hand, and he's very experienced at playing with them and stuff. So it'll be a good challenging game for me to set my army up against, and I do like a good challenging game, and I think it'll be good fun. And I've never played against Necrons before. Necrons were always my army back in the day, and I've played with Necrons a lot, but I've never played against them.
Only fought
And
them
so it's
once.
going to be an experience. It should be fun. I know they've got some nasty firepower, and I know they've got some very nasty assault units of their own with things like wraiths and stuff. And yeah, they've got all sorts of tricks and stuff up their sleeves. So it'll be very interesting. And I'm very much looking forward to that. So I've got to get a list together for that. And I sort of haven't really got anywhere with it yet, because I've sort of wrote a rough list out that I wanted to take, and then once I started adding the points up, I realised that I'd gone nearer 3,000 points. So I need to rethink that list and probably, like you said, downsize detachments, because you can get a battalion detachment in 2,000 quite easily if you do it right, but it does mean sort of minimal size units and stuff, and I think you can try and farm the command points too much at the expense of your unit.
Definitely.
So it's striking that balance. It's good to have as many command points as you can, so you can use as many stratagems, but if all your low leadership units are in small squads and they're all going to run as soon as the going gets tough, it's no amount of stratagems is going to save you from that. So yeah, it's going to be, I'll probably end up going for the what's it called, the brigade detachment, is it, the sort of medium-sized detachment that still gets you quite a few command points.
Well, I think the brigade detachment is the massive one. I think you're talking about the battalion.
Battalion, that's the one.
Where it's 2 HQ and 3 troops, and then whatever you want. You're
That's
still going to get,
killer.
you're still going to get +3 command points, and you get 3 basics, so you're still going to get 6.
But now you'll get +5, don't you? Because you get more than it says in the rulebook. Because since the big FAQ, so for battalion you get 5 command points, and the brigade gets you 9 command points, plus the 3 you get for being battle forged. So
but the battalion's gone up then, because in the rulebook,
yeah, in the rule book, there's still, obviously it is what it was printed, but yeah, it was after the I think it was the big FAQ 2 or possibly the first one. It was one of them anyway that upped the amount of command points, because they were really trying to reward the players that build armies, not elite units of characters and all the fancy stuff. So it's
captains with knight support, you know what I mean?
Yeah, basically. I was in a heated debate with Joe today about how he's saying that the GW have screwed people that like playing elite armies and taken all their buffs. I'm like, it's not that they haven't taken anything away from you, it's that they've rewarding players who are paying the troop tax, and it's a very positive thing, I think. And so it makes army building. Do you want the fancy stuff, or do you want to get access to lots of stratagems? And
or Joe was probably scoffing at you. Who wants to bring bog standard slugging troops in an army?
Yeah, pretty much.
What's wrong with you? The best of the best only.
which is fine, but it's never been my way. My armies, I've always tend to, no matter what army I've played, even when I did play Necrons, I remember my Necron army used to be filled with large squads of lots of warriors. And, when I played Chaos, I had lots of standard Chaos Space Marine squads and cultists, because I've always liked armies with lots of infantry. And then my next choice is probably the heavy support section. No matter what army I play, I'm always drawn to the heavy support section. My Orks are a prime example of that. It's all my favourite units are my mech guns and my death dreads and my cans and my Gorkanaut, all that big stompy shooty stuff. I love it.
Oh, I'm similar. Like I've been severely tempted by several armies over the years, and it'll be like horde style. So Imperial Guard, so it's like hordes of troops with tanks, or Tyranids, where it's hordes of little Griblies with big Griblies. Orks, I don't know. I think that they're more of the traditional style build, where there's a lot of troops, a lot of boots on the ground style type thing. I've been drawn. Yeah, I get drawn into the same type of thing. So it's understandable that Ork players will have a similar sort of, not all, but some Ork players will have a similar sort of demographic idea was of what an army composition is. You're going to need that mentality, and by the sounds of it, you're going to need to get the old finger out there and get painting. I know I am. I've started messing around with my airbrush again, so hopefully I'll get 2,000 points done, but by the end of next year, hopefully.
yeah, painting is something I do need to get cracking on with, but I currently have a lot of other projects underway. I'm still building and converting my mech guns, so I've got that project on the go, and I'm still currently building terrain, which I think my terrain will be painted very quickly after I built it, because for some reason I love painting terrain and scenery. I think because you can just slap sprays on and dry brush and slap some inks on and call it done, and it looks really good. Painting miniatures is a bit more intricate and a bit more time consuming, and it's time. But I think once I've sort of built the army I want, then I think I will start really cracking on getting it painted. And I'm still sort of experimenting at the moment and still building stuff, and there's still units and things I want to add to my army. I need to add more death dreads, more cans, more meganobs. I really want to go more towards the dread mob, stompy and shooty. That's the name of the game for me.
Well, yeah, there was.
But I think
it's definitely dread mobs. Oh, I think you're right. I think we're probably reaching the end of this episode of Two Bald Knobs. As you can tell,
Yeah,
we can talk the legs off a chair. We could.
we certainly can. I think our last episode was, what was it, over 3.5 hours long.
Oh,
and
Jesus, I'm still traumatized.
We're not going to be repeating that anymore. I think we'll always sort of aim for around the hour mark. I think this one's gone slightly over, but never mind. Around the hour mark seems to be the sweet spot, I think.
Definitely. So I'll be getting more battles in myself, and hopefully getting buggies built and some stuff painted between now and the next podcast.
And yes, and I was about to say as well, for our next podcast, episode 8, we've promised it several times. We've brought it up several times, but we've never actually done it yet. We really do need to do our Q&A show. So I think we'll do that on the next one. And if you guys in the comments section get your questions, ask us anything you like, within reason, and pop it in the comments section, and we'll make a list of them, and maybe I'll post it on the Facebook group as well, and on my Patreon and things, and ask a lot of the subscribers and that to ask us some questions, and we'll do the full Q&A session on our next episode.
Definitely. So fire away, ask your Orky questions, and the next episode will be dedicated to answering Orky questions. So,
definitely, and not just Orky questions. Feel free to ask questions about us and other things as well. But yeah, anything you like.
Oh, all right. Anything. Oh,
anything.
Anything.
But we can. Well, look. Put it this way: our subscribers can ask any question they like, but it'll be up to us whether we want to answer
it.
So.
Yeah, there you go. We'll finish on that caveat. So that's Scarn here. That's me until the next episode.
And that's 6 Plus Stevo signing out.